Hello and welcome to another episode of So Fly. Wow, 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 wow.
Oh my god, wow, wow,
Wow,
wow.
wow. This is so
So
much
dumb.
energy. So much energy. My name is
Jesus.
my light just fell.
That was awesome.
My name is Mitch, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see me fixing my light. And of course, we've got Aldo here,
Hey, everybody.
and we got another episode for you today. Tuning in, uh,
God forbid.
and it's gonna be a good one because we've got a very interesting guest on the show today.
Mm,
A very exciting, well-traveled angler who's very
mm.
well traveled, who
Yeah, oh
spends
yeah.
weeks, months at a time in some of the most amazing fishing destinations around the world. Emily Rodger, so she's gonna be on the show. But before we get into the show with Emily, why don't we talk about some stuff going on this month because this is March now. Or-
Yeah, so obviously, if you're listening to this, it's March 1st. We're recording this little intro on February 27th. It's 12 degrees Celsius and thunderstorming.
and that's so weird, eh?
So that's
So
weird.
bizarre. I was like sitting here at my desk with my window wide open, February, and I hear big thunder. I'm like, what the hell? It's kind
Yeah.
of awesome, but I mean, also like not when you think about why it's happening. But anyways,
Yeah. But yeah, maybe let's we'll kick it off with again a little bit of a not a crazy new format, but a little bit of a new format. But yeah, let's go to the community calendar. For us, super exciting. In 2 weeks. There's going to be a very fly fishy weekend here in Toronto and Southern Ontario. Everybody, for us personally, on the 16th of March, we're going to be at the Filson store here in Toronto, which is on Queen Street West, and we're going to be doing a live podcast. And our guest is going to be Fred Campbell of Hook A. Of course, he's the founder of Hook A. And, I think if anybody, especially us Canadians, saw their content years ago, and it's awesome that they're still around. And it's kind of cool that we're still around too. And Fred's actually in town for the Outdoor Sportsman show that weekend in Mississauga. But he's going to be at the Filson store with us. Oh, excuse
jeez,
me.
oh my gosh, yeah, recording a
6
live
p
episode
of a live episode. So 6 p.m.
right off
If
the
you want to
fly.
come, is doors. It's not the biggest store in the world. It probably fit about 30 people. But we're gonna be doing a live show, so you can watch us record and interview Fred. And there's gonna be drinks and snacks. And during the day, up until 6 o'clock, when the store is open, our good pal Tim is going to be tattooing some awesome tattoos on people, and the proceeds are going to go to clean water charities like the Ontario River Alliance, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Then the following day is going to be the IF4. Drift is hosting the IF4 at the Review Cinema on Roncesvalles, and Fred Campbell has a film with Hook A in that IF4 screening. So we're gonna be interviewing Fred all about that movie the night before, so you can meet the filmmaker before watching the film. And Fred's going to be at the Sportsman show as well, at the Yeti booth. So if you're at the show, go check them out because Hook is they're pretty cool dudes, and he's super friendly, and you can chat his ear off about hooking Atlantic salmon.
yeah, and at the Filson live recording too, we'll probably have some prizes and stuff we'll give away. Right, if people come out, you could win prizes during the show.
Correct. Yes, it is a
Yeah,
raffle. There's going to be a
yeah.
raffle. You make a
So come,
donation, you get a raffle ticket.
come donate, get a raffle ticket, and we'll maybe give you some. Maybe you can win some prizes.
You know,
But
we, you
definitely
know, we're
come hang
raffling
out.
off. You know what the grand prize is, Mitch?
What's the grand prize?
It's one of your favorite rods.
A new hide drift boat. Imagine.
Imagine that'd be sick. No, it's a Reddington Wrangler Trout XL
Woo!
kit. So
Nice.
a heavier weight setup for chucking streamers for trout.
Sick. There we go. So come on out, Feb 16th, March 16th, the Saturday. 6 p.m. is the live recording.
Yep, and the
But
very next day
come
is
all day over. Get a tattoo from Tim. Next day, I have 4 drift. Boom, boom, bam, bam.
boom, boom, bam, bam. It's gonna be a really fishy weekend. If you're in London and you are as part of the London Fly Club, we're gonna be at your meeting on March
Oh,
6th. We're gonna be talking about some of our favorite rods and setups for different species here in Southern Ontario. If you're not a member of the Fly Club, you can join, or you can go to a meeting to see if it's something you want to be a part of. And honestly, it's a great group of people, and they do a lot of conservation work, and they do a lot of fish meetups in the London area. So I don't see why you wouldn't. And they're only going to be doing more stuff because they've been reaching out to us a bunch, so they're trying to be more active in the community, and
There you
we're
go.
stoked. We did a talk with them last year, and it's cool that we're already back with them not that long after. So yeah, if you're going to be there, that's cool. That's cool. March 6th.
There you
That's
go.
that's really all I got, Mitch. You got anything else?
No, I think that's kind of all the news for this month. Obviously,
Is your
it's
birthday coming up?
yep, June, right
Uh,
around the corner. Um, so is yours, September.
right around the corner. Oh,
We
actually, I do have
do.
one more. Sorry,
Oh
sorry. Oh, what were you going to say, Mitch?
no, no,
Oh,
go
I was
ahead.
going to say, Matt Martin of Smooth River Guiding would like us to mention that Smooth River Academy is back, everybody. That is the 1 day. Oh, your light fell again.
I got to get something for that next episode.
The where
Good
was I?
Lord.
Yes,
Yeah, Smooth River Academy is Matt's back for another class. School's in session again, right? You can learn
nice,
how to fly
buddy.
fish with Smooth River Academy. What's
I
the
love
deets
that.
behind that one?
So the way it worked last year, and I believe it's the
Yeah.
same this year, is that there's two sessions. There's a morning session and an afternoon session. There's a more beginner intro style
Yeah.
session to fly fishing, where you go over knots, you go over gear, you go over presenting, the cast and presenting to fish. It's going to be on the Grand River, but if you just go to smoothriver.ca or Smooth River Guiding Co. Smooth River Guiding, sorry, on Instagram, you'll be able to find all the deets, which is great.
Yeah, it was a
Uh,
cool
yeah,
last
you were there
year.
last year, hey Mitch?
Yeah, it was great. It was like right on the river, good instructors, obviously. I think Chris was there from Drift last year, and Matt, obviously. I know Nick's also helped teach as well. And these fellas are quite the anglers. They're pretty dialed. I mean, like when it comes to learning how to fly fish, you basically can't ask for better instructors. They're very good teachers, but also, crazy knowledgeable about fly fishing. So it's like it's good. It's really good that you've got access to people like that, in Ontario if you're in Ontario. So go and take advantage of it because you're gonna learn a ton from, like I
Definitely.
said, really fishy people.
Yeah. So June 8th in Elora, go to Smooth River Guiding on Instagram or smoothriver.ca to sign up. Again, the intro in the morning, no experience or gear required.
No,
The afternoon class, though, is intermediate technique. So maybe people that already have their gear or maybe need a tune up, um, you know, bring the gear that you fish with, because then you can maybe learn a little bit more about how to use it effectively.
yeah. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And of course, spring is right around the corner. Obviously we set the clocks back um, in a couple weeks, which is really exciting. Clocks forward, I suppose. Spring forward, spring ahead.
We're
So we're gonna
springing
get
forward, brother.
we're gonna get an hour more of daylight technically, which is pretty sweet. And that also means fishing's coming up. So, obviously, we're going to talk more about some of the stuff we've got coming up in April, but we already know Sotos is right around the corner. So just get ready for that too.
April
Sotos
19th.
3. Yeah. But, anyways, more on all that stuff to come. Let's hop into the show today with Emily Rodger. Yeah, we hope you enjoy it. Emily's, like we said, very well traveled angler
Fellow
and
Canadian.
fellow Canadian and an athlete. Has some really cool stories and is a very interesting person. So enjoy the show and yeah, take it away. Us, I guess.
Past
Emily
us.
Rodger, right after these words. Emily Rodger is a former elite athlete turned certified executive coach, public speaker, passionate fly fisher, podcast host, and co founder of a youth leadership program called On the Rise. Wow, that is a lot of stuff. Emily's love for adventure is an integral part of who she is, closely entwined with her profound appreciation for life's untamed beauty and unpredictability. For Emily, fly fishing is not only a recreational activity, but has become a way of life. Fly fishing has taken her all over the planet, from the clear waters of Patagonia to the saltwater flats of Belize. And it isn't just about catching fish, it's about the whole experience. As an accomplished angler with infectious energy and enthusiasm, Emily hosts trips to various lodges throughout the world, sharing her deep appreciation for the art of fly fishing and creating unforgettable experience for her clients. But today she's on SoFly. Emily, welcome to the show.
Aw, thank you so much. I'm so happy we're finally all connected.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
Long time coming.
yeah, for
Long
real.
time
Yeah,
coming, for sure,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
I mean, I don't, for anybody listening who knows, we're all fellow Canadians, and for those that you don't, we're all fellow Canadians. Emily, where are you calling from today?
I am home in Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Right on.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah,
How's the winter going out there? Is it crazy?
it's winter. It's
Yeah.
cold. It's
Yeah.
snowy. It's freezing rain, and but it's winter is very short lived for me, so I can't complain about it. While I am here, I am just home for a couple of weeks now, and just kind of hunker down at home in my office and work and see family and friends, and then try and enjoy a little bit of winter activity until it is time to pack my bags and head to the airport again. So
Yes, very wild, very hectic. Like you do so many different things. I mean, just in that intro alone, it's like I don't know how you find the energy to do all of these things and still go and catch crazy fish around the world.
yeah, well, and with that, it's I think that everything that I do gives me energy and everything that I do fills my bucket. And my work, my life, I mean my work, my life, everything is just kind of intertwined together. And it just is I've kind of crafted it to be so me that it feels natural, it feels comfortable. I don't feel like I get run down. I am very careful in what I can take on and what I can't, and kind of setting those boundaries within myself and what I can say yes to because I want to say yes to everything.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, this season of my life of just being very focused on like all of the above that you just stated, which when kind of you recite it back, it's like, oh yeah, that is a lot. And then I'm thinking, gosh, and there's even more on my schedule that I do than just that.
Yeah.
But
No, it's
yeah, I
awesome.
love it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, like you take one quick glance at your website at emilyrogers.com. And it's just crazy. Like, I mean, it's the coaching, the speaking, but then of course we get into and the podcast and whatnot. But then of course, hard not to for us anyway gravitate towards all your hosted trips. And man, there aren't whole
There's
lot of places you don't go.
yeah,
Argentina, Belize, Bolivia, um, Brazil. It's pretty
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and
Yeah,
Africa.
yeah, I just got back from Africa, and yeah, I'm home now for a couple of weeks. Then I leave next week for Argentina for 4 weeks, and then home for a
Wow.
Oh
couple, and
wow.
then Belize, and then home
Oh,
for
nice.
one, and then Cuba, and then it's just like it just goes from there. And but yeah, it's interesting too, even that thing of like how I have yeah, just kind of find ways of making everything work. And so I know for me that after a even like a week-long trip at a lodge, I like to book 2 nights in a hotel because I'm like, I
Yeah.
just want to book coaching calls with my clients, and I just want to dive right into that. And it gives me time to kind of unwind from my trip, settle into work. I can work from wherever I am. Like even prior to COVID, I've been working remotely and working a lot of virtual stuff. So it's yeah, my home office can sometimes be the Air Canada Lounge. It can
Yeah,
sometimes
totally.
be a hotel. It can sometimes be a lodge.
Yeah,
Like,
it's cool. It's cool. It's a
yeah.
cool lifestyle, and definitely one we want to jump into and talk about in terms of like fly fishing trips. And I think today, like, we first want to definitely get a sense of like how you kind of got into fly fishing, and like how that began for you, how it became such a big part of your life. And then although I just want to like zero in on Africa because like that is a recent trip, one that we are like, man, that is so cool. And I know a lot of people probably feel the same way because it's just such a
I
epic
mean, we're
thing.
scrolling your Instagram, come up on my feed all pretty often, and just seeing all these nighttime pics of these insane fish I've never seen before. So yeah, we thought we'd maybe dive into Africa a bit. But yeah, before that, yeah, maybe let's get into a little bit about how you even got into fly fishing or how that came into your life. Because I mean, you lead a pretty sporting life with cycling and an outdoor life. So just interested to hear where the fly fishing journey began.
Yeah, I mean, the outdoors has always kind of been a part of my life of like being a kid and spending time at the cottage and by a little creek by my house, and always really captivated by fish and the whole just life cycle of fish and just learning about them. And I just always had a real appreciation for that. And that kind of like that excitement around like hunting for them. Like I wanted to be out
Yeah.
looking for them, and that's a thought that always kind of stuck with me. And then it really wasn't until once I started getting into cycling, and after the first accident that I had, which I feel like is very common knowledge now, I've talked about it so much on different platforms, but in 2013 was cycling and hit by a car and airlifted to a trauma hospital and critical
Wild.
condition with a brain injury and multiple broken bones and kind of shattered the left side of my face. And through my recovery from that, I went back into bike racing at the elite level and really rising up in that sport really fast, but really suffering with a brain injury that at the time I was very much in denial of, and also suffering with PTSD from surviving
Mhm.
a accident that sh- very easily could have taken my life. And so with that like high paced cadence of just cycling and racing and pushing my body and everything else, like I knew that that I was just kind of burning myself out and that almost I was like running from something. Um and so, yeah, the thought of fishing came to my mind one day. I would spend my recovery days. I was living in Arizona at the time, and would spend my recovery days up in Sedona, which is a
Oh,
very
cool.
relaxing place, and by a little creek that was there. And I started noticing the trout. And even just noticing those trout brought back memories as a kid and how captivated I was by them. And then yeah, that's where the idea of fly fishing came because I saw a sign that it was fly fish only, and I didn't even know what fly fishing was, and so I looked up fly fishing guides and how to go about it. And at that time, like, I mean, for me, that was like kind of before social media that I didn't know it was a thing that people did. And for the first couple of years that I was fishing, I mean, the majority of my fishing trips, probably 90% of them, was just solo on my own, occasionally going out with a guide, but just kind of figuring things out. And I would bring fly rods with me to different bike races that I was
Oh,
going to.
awesome.
And my teammates and other cyclists would be like, Emily, like, what are you doing? Like, we just race bikes. We don't do anything else but that. and, yeah. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, no, that's wild that, it began as the way it did, but then later on in life became sort of, almost like a recovery tool, right? Like something that you used almost as a way to kind of start feeling better on your healing journey as well, Like it's cool that fly fishing had the ability to do that for you.
Yeah, I think that, in fly fishing, we are so focused on what's going on below the surface.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
if we and just how often, and so even for me, kind of during my time of learning about fly fishing and learning about fish, it's like, gosh, like I need to pay attention to what's going on below the surface. Like what's actually happening for those fish? Like what's the habitat? What are the structures down there? What are the systems down there? And then kind of
Mhm.
within that, it's that self-reflection and then asking myself the same question.
Mhm.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so if
that's a
I'm
good.
wanting to understand a fish so well, then I'm the one trying to catch the fish. I need to have that self-awareness and understand myself also. And so it was kind of through that process and through many days and weeks and months and years being on the water that it just kind of made me even more comfortable with myself to start digging a little deeper into who I was and what I was going through, what things I needed to still work through, choices I was making, how I wanted to be living my life. And yeah, it opened
Mhm.
up this whole new world of exploration, both in fishing, but I think ultimately within myself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
That's really so sorry, just I don't mean to get this too back into cycling, but were you racing and competing while you were still like kind of in physical recovery as well? Like kind of pushing through that pain?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. My
Oh, wow.
entire time racing, I was going through surgeries. Yeah, throughout all of it. Like I actually just had my last surgery from that accident 2.5 months ago.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, and so I would like go and have jaw surgery, go and have bone grafts, and be out training a couple of days later.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, that's wild. I can't even imagine. I mean, it's also I can like you said earlier, like it was kind of a difficult thing for you to accept, like the accident itself, and almost coming to terms with some of those injuries.
For sure. And I think that like I was so concerned then with being I didn't wanna come across like I was a victim of anything,
Right.
and so I didn't wanna feel portrayed that way, and it's this thing of kind of going below the surface, and, like, I didn't want somebody asking me how I was doing because I don't like to lie, and so I didn't wanna answer that question, and so
Hmm.
if people just saw Emily as someone who was racing and winning all these races and traveling the world, getting invited to race for these different teams and everything else, and people didn't ask me how I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
Right.
in those ways, in a lot of ways, like the bike, I mean, I loved it and was had right reasons for doing it, but in many ways, kind of was using it as a tool to help me get through like extremely challenging times in my life.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that like, how serendipitous was that your kind of recovery journey took you to Sedona to of all things, a fly fishing only section of a creek.
Yeah.
And then you kind of found that and, you know, and then that led off on that sped you off on a whole different path, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
that leads
Arizona.
me,
Wow.
yeah, Arizona's
It's a
incredible,
beautiful
incredible.
place
Yeah,
to
I
learn how to
spent
fly fish.
7, almost 8 years there. But it's this thing too about, like, just being curious, and, like, ultimately, it's because I was curious about these fish that I saw. And so it's one thing to be curious, but then it's another thing to actually act on it. And so if I
Hmm.
hadn't have acted on it, if I hadn't have picked up that call, if I hadn't have just like gone and done it, then yeah, I don't know. I mean, my life might not be where it is today. But how many things maybe in life that like we are curious about that we don't act upon?
Yeah, we almost just like don't say yes to these opportunities that like kind of come in front of us, right? Like you say with seeing the fish for example and being curious about them and saying yes to like, going further with that. That's a good point.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes we can get in our way more than anybody else or anything, any of outlying, I don't know, source, I guess, if
Yeah.
you will. Okay, so you learn if you're in Arizona, you pick up this passion. Did you take that back to New Brunswick? Because obviously, as most Canadians know, what an awesome place to go fishing
I
is New
did.
Brunswick. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, so I would salmon fish, yeah, those first couple of years. Well, those first few years, I was not home in New Brunswick much because I was
right.
away racing everywhere.
Oh, right,
Um,
right. Hmm.
so, yeah, like, even then, like, I was fishing, like, in Italy, I was fishing in France, I was fishing,
It's so
like,
cool.
New
Well,
Mexico, like, so many different places because,
Yeah.
like, gosh, like, I would be racing and, like, would see these, like, streams and think, like, "Oh, that's where I'm going tomorrow."
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
it's funny, like in a way, traveling. We the topic of like home waters always comes up. Well, what's your home water? Or like these were my home waters or whatever. In a way, like traveling, you know, comes later on in a fly fishing life, if you will. But maybe your home waters already were the world.
Yeah, like when people say of like, "Oh, what's your like main species of fish?" Or
Like,
they'll say
yeah.
like, "Oh, you're going on a trout trip, like you're a salmon girl or you're a saltwater girl." And I'm like, "I'm not on anything." Like so
Yeah.
in cycling, I was a like they would call me like an all-arounder. Like I was really good. Like I've won world championships in time trial and road racing. Like did I could sprint like not the best, but a team would bring me on because I was so well rounded in all of these aspects. And yeah, I kind of feel like it's the same with fishing. It's like not one species of fish is my specialty by any means, but it's like, okay, what can I take from one and then apply it to the other and things like that. So when people say like, okay, you're going on a trout trip, now you're gonna have to like forget about the strip set. It's like I don't even my brain doesn't even go
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like kind of rote memory now because it's like approaching like a hill or a sprint. You're like, you know what to do. You don't, you know.
Yeah.
It's
It's
like
like
muscle
muscle
memory
memory.
instead. Yeah.
Yeah, watch me say this, and next week in Argentina, I strip set on my first trout.
Just like pummel this poor thing's face.
Just like rip it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's not a bull shark.
A
Shit.
a
Oops.
tarpon
Oops.
strike.
Just
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah, no,
awesome.
that makes a lot of sense. How did the hosting trips come about then? Like how'd you get into hosting trips?
They came just so initially, like all of my travels, I would just go and go on my own, and I love that. Like, I've always traveled solo, and then would meet different people at different lodges, and then they would say, like, "Where are you going next? We wanna come, we wanna join you."
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, it was never anything that, like, I pursued or put out there. It was just people saying that they wanted to be at a lodge with me again. And so now have, like, a really wonderful core group of people that they're just like, "Where are we going next? Where are you going? We're coming."
That's so
Oh my god,
cool.
I love that. That's so
Yeah, that's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of those things too, I find that even with the kind of more like remote destinations like
Mhm.
Brazil or Bolivia, but even with that, it's like, gosh, everything is so accessible that it's
Right,
like I don't
yeah.
even know what remote means anymore.
Yeah, like, it people
Um
build it up in their heads almost as like, "Wow, it's so far off," but then you do it, and it's like, "Actually, that was kinda
yeah, it's
easy to
actually
get
quite
to."
easy to get to.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
like
It's
yeah.
wild.
yeah, the
Yeah,
world has become pretty accessible.
Yeah.
Or
it
the
is
modern world, I guess. Yeah.
so accessible, yeah. But I think that, certain people, like, they wanna make sure that they're gonna be with a good group when they're away at a lodge and a good dynamic and, people that they enjoy being around, people who have been there before so they kind of know what to expect, and, and I think that I have had the ability and just the privilege to go to so many places that when I do host a group back to a place, then the people are like, okay, it's gotta be good if Emily is going to go back and bring people and stuff like that. So, yeah, like this year, probably 25% of my trips will be hosted, and then the rest just solo.
Cool. Well, it looks like most of them I'm like on your website right now. It looks like most of them are kind of booked.
They are, and that's like
But Bolivia's open if anybody listening to this wants to
so,
go.
and only because that just opened 2 days ago.
Oh,
Oh
rad.
shit.
That's
High
wild.
in
Yeah.
demand.
No, the other ones, like, they were booked before I even left the lodges of the places that I were at, people seeing social media stuff, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, when are you going back? We wanna go."
Right.
And then, yeah, so actually, a friend of mine who you guys would know as well, Alexi Pajot,
Mhm.
we're gonna co-host a group together on that new week
Awesome.
in Bolivia. Yeah, that just
That's super cool.
opened, and he's gonna do some photography lessons and stuff like that when we're there
Oh,
as well.
super
And
cool.
then
That's fun.
I'm there the following week hosting another group. But yeah, that one is fully booked.
That's really,
Super
really
cool.
cool. Um, before we move on to Africa here, I just had a thought because I go on a friend's hosted trip, Kayla Lockhart, to go on one of her trips every year, and it's so fun, you know. How much like you know, you seem to have so many repeat clients. How much of it is like them looking for like just someone who's curating kind of like if let's say the fishing is assumed to be amazing, right? Like no matter
Hmm.
where you're going, if it's Belize or Argentina or whatever, if we're gonna assume that the fishing's amazing and that's why you're going there. How much of it is people looking for your not maybe not so your ability to fish, but maybe more so to curate like a great experience? Because obviously I know Kayla Lockhart can fish and outfishes pretty much everybody on those trips. But like, that's not why I'm going on the trip. I'm going to because I know she knows how to, like you said, curate a good group and you know, kind of put together a good time.
Accommodate everything in.
Yeah, like how
Yeah,
much of it is fishing expertise versus just like hosting ability.
I think it's hosting ability. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. The fishing experts, those are the guides that are
for
there.
Right.
sure.
No matter
Yeah.
how many times I go to a location, like, it's the guides that are the experts on that, and, like, man, kudos to them and bless their heart, like, guides do not get enough appreciation for what they do,
It's
but
a
I think
lot
as
of
far as
work.
the hosted trips go that, I do believe that it is the people want to go for they want to go because of that group experience and what is being curated and put together. I will even have some of my coaching clients for executive and leadership coaching that they will want to come with me, and it's this thing of like yeah, personalities.
Yeah.
And who are you gonna share this incredible week with? Like, okay, you're gonna go out and you're gonna have like the most insane stellar day ever on the water. Are you gonna go back and be around people who are stoked for you, or people who are miserable because they didn't get a fish? Like,
Yeah.
Wow,
Right.
good point.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Oh yeah.
Or
That's a
those
bummer.
days where you're like, okay, fishing slow, like
Yeah.
stuff happens. You're gonna go back to the lodge, you're still gonna have an incredible
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a
totally.
good point.
That's a good point. Yeah, from again, I've only ever been on these hosted trips, so yeah, like people obviously you want to catch that permit, but like when people come back to the lodge and somebody's landed a permit, everyone's like, yeah, high fives, margaritas, and all that stuff, and it's like a fun moment. Like, who would ever be mad at somebody else catching a great, an amazing fish? I don't know. Crazy,
No, 100%.
crazy
100%.
talk.
Hospitality, like it's a big part of
Yep.
it. That's what makes a trip fun. I mean, it depends on the person, I suppose, but that's what I like in a trip.
Yeah.
Um, okay, why don't we jump over to Africa, which is a trip you did most recently, right?
Mhm.
Where, like, what are the details with that trip? Where'd you go, and for how long? Um,
Yeah. So I was in Africa for 5.5 weeks, and it all came up
Nice.
pretty last minute. Like I booked it with a little over a month and a half notice. I
oh
love
wow,
things like that. And yeah, the opportunity came up to go over there. Africa is a place that I have honestly wanted to go to my whole entire life. Like when you say like, what is that one place you've dreamed of since of going? Like for me, since a little girl, like it is Africa. But for safari, not necessarily for fly fishing, until
yeah,
I then started seeing and learning about fly fishing over there. So yeah, I was over there and ended up inviting a good friend of mine, again, Alexi, because I said, listen, I'm going on this trip. And I think that there's just some really incredible and impactful stories to share with this. So, do you want to come
mhm,
over and document it? And let's make a short film about it. So, we were actually producing a documentary while we were over there. And we did almost 2 weeks in Botswana on safaris, and then went to South Africa, and then went to Lesotho to fish at the Mahangwa community camp for yellowfish and trout, and then went to West Coast Gabon to Setakama to fish for, oh my gosh, the most like incredible saltwater species.
oh wow, jeez,
Where do I
that's a
even
heck,
start? And
yeah,
then I continued on my own after that to do a gorilla trek in Gabon as well. And
wow.
yeah. So where
Did
do
you
you
come
want to go
across?
with it? What do you want to dive into with
Yeah, I
Africa?
think
That's a heck of a yeah, it's
that's
a
a
heck
heck
of a
of,
trip, an adventure.
we could definitely dive into like so much here. First of all, your safari videos were awesome. Thought those were
Yeah,
super cool. But maybe let's start with the freshwater stuff. Because you're saying you're going after trout and yellowfish. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yep, yeah, Lesotho is home to yellowfish, which it's interesting. When I first looked them up, I was like, pretty sure that's a carp.
Yeah, it's looking
These
very
people are trying to
carpy.
yeah,
sell me on a carp
Yeah,
trip.
yeah.
Like, they take a fly. Like,
that's cool.
again, these species of fish that are just so cool that, yeah, it's wild. And they're like bonefish.
Yeah,
They're
it's wild.
strong. They like
Okay.
just like zing. Yeah, and so Lesotho is like high up in the mountains. I forget the elevation, but like it's definitely like high up altitude that you are feeling it. But I mean, everything about that the place and the community camp is phenomenal. And I'm really kind of like intentional with what lodges that I go to, and wanting to just go to more and more lodges that really have community involvement. Like to me, that is just
Hmm.
really important of what
Mm,
impact is fishing having on these areas. And not just from like the fishing standpoint, but like conservation on fishing, but also conservation on community and conservation on culture. And so with that, Mahanko Community Camp is a camp that just like is they're at the top with that, along with so many other ones. And so just being able to be in the village and really be able to experience the whole culture and visit with so many locals, and just it's like when I think of Africa, I'm going to rewind like 5 years ago. When I think of
Please.
Africa, I think like, well, the reason that held me back from going is because I was like, it's probably not a safe place for me to go on my own. Where everywhere else in the world I've gone to on my own, and that's not true. I've actually been to North Africa on my own, but I was like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And so you get this perception about Africa, and then start researching it a little bit more and diving into things a little bit more, and it's like, wait a minute, no, that's like my perception is actually false. And so changing that, and I can honestly say that at this lodge in Lesotho, that's probably the most safe I have ever felt at a place before. And
Oh
I
wow.
could get up in the morning and go and trail run on my own and not worry about anything. And the locals were so friendly. Like it's just a community built off of heart and compassion. And then so I mean it's beautiful. It's mountainous, it's beautiful. The rivers are just crystal clear. And then you're
Mm.
sight fishing for these yellowfish. Yeah,
Um,
highly recommend it.
right. And Lesotho is like, is it? It's like it almost looks like it's like a self-contained country within South Africa. Is that true?
Yeah, it's like completely enclosed within South Africa.
Well, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
Okay, so
little
you're
circle inside, of South Africa, right? Yeah, that's right. It's
yeah.
Mhm.
Mitch
an
has been to
interesting
Cape
place.
Town, but I've never been to Africa. So
Mhm.
that's definitely a must before I leave this earth. But that's cool. Like, so okay, so you got to so break down the fishing. Crystal clear rivers. How are you fishing for these yellowfish? Like dry fly streamers, nymphs. What are they eating?
Dry flies and nymphs. So
Oh, cool.
we
Wow.
yeah, we
Okay.
actually like
Dry
a bit of
flies.
a
That sounds awesome.
yeah, dry flies, yep. And so a bit of a cold front actually moved in when we were there, which is atypical for this season. And so the yellowfish, they prefer to feed when it is warmer, and so they much like myself don't really enjoy the colder temperatures. So yeah, they weren't as kind of taking as prolific as we might have liked them to, but yeah, I definitely got into lots on dries, on hopper patterns, some on nymphs. Um, yeah.
Cool. That
Yeah,
And
sounds
it's all
then
awesome.
sight
many of
fishing
them
too.
that you're
Wow.
casting to, and you're like, I see you, and I see you looking at my fly. And why won't you take it?
That's awesome. And it's like, I mean, the fish are really cool looking. Like you said, very carp, golden. You're like on like 5, 6 weight kind of thing.
Yeah, 5 weight.
Later ish tackle 5 weight.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
That sounds pretty.
With like 5X, 6X tippet, and
Oh,
yeah.
so very trouty in general. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
you do that for a bit, and then you're like, okay, it's time to go. Are you working your way down further south after that?
No, after that, we went back to Johannesburg and then flew
Mm,
to Gabon from there.
okay.
And yeah. So, I mean, just Africa is like, I could spend the next, I think, 5 years of my life just fishing across Africa. Like, I am obsessed with it right now. It's incredible. So many different fisheries, and just like, like it, and just how kind of polar opposite both of those places were, and all places that we went to. Of then, yeah, being at Lesotho and then going to Gabon, where you are fly fishing like in the jungle, but in a safari. It's like there's elephants there, there's
It's
hippos
wild.
there, there's like
Yeah, that's crazy. Like as a destination fishing trip, like that's just so wild, It's like such a massive adventure to be surrounded by, yeah, like things like elephants when you're like looking for fish, It's crazy.
I mean,
yeah,
how many authors, filmmakers, and
Yeah.
writers in general have like gone to Africa and never left? Just
yeah.
for that reason alone, just 'cause it's so inspiring. Okay, so you get to Gabon. What are you fishing for first?
So our first morning, so you fish the lagoons in the morning, and everything there is very like based on the tides. And I'm
Right.
probably going to completely butcher my explanation of all of this. Afterwards, everyone's going to be fact checking, and they're like, this is the Emily Rodger version. so,
That's
so,
okay.
so
We're pretty similar at SoFly here. We're like, yeah, think it has something to do with the tides. And
I'm like, I was catching Atlantic salmon in Gabon.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's Atlantic
Um,
Ocean.
yeah. So in the morning, get up early and fish the tides, fish in the lagoon. So you're fishing off of the skiffs, and it's primarily for longfin jack. So like literally within like a couple of minutes of me being out on the water, I see this little feeding frenzy, cast my fly, and here I am hooked up to this fish. And although I think it's the one that you were commenting on of, oh my gosh, the size of that jack. And so it is like, it's one of those moments where you think like, oh my gosh, is this what the rest of my week is going to be like? Like
Right.
that happened to me when I was in Bolivia on like my very first morning. Within the first few minutes, landed this insane Dorado. And I'm like, is this normal? Like, well, it turned out that it was normal. And yeah, we just had like nonstop action on these longfin jacks, and like Alexi and I just like doubling up. I mean, we were just laughing hysterically, having so much fun. And they'll take a popper, they take streamers,
Wow,
and
jeez.
then you fish to about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then go back, have breakfast, have a siesta, and then head back for the evening session to fish the outgoing tides again, because all the bait fish are moving up. And so then we fished closer out, like kind of closer out towards the ocean, and fishing along the beach. And then so it's like when the sun starts to go down, like all of these fish just come alive.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, like still getting jacks and snappers and threadfin and tarpon. Like, you
Oh,
want to talk
wow.
about big tarpon?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I would. I would love to talk about big tarpon.
Oh
I don't
my
know,
god.
I don't even think about tarpon, yeah, in that context, but, like, tarpon fishing in Africa, like, wow, what a
Like the
wild.
largest tarpon in the world.
Really, eh? Wow.
Yeah, like 200-pound tarpon.
Oh my god, just, like,
Like, it's
hanging out.
insane, insane. So, there was, like, so I never ended up landing one, and, on so both times, and so you're fishing, yeah, like, you're waiting from the shore in the pitch dark, and you're just casting to, like, the sound of, like, where you think
Oh, wow.
the tarpon are, because you can
Yeah.
hear them rolling and stuff like that.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so I made this one cast, and it was the most subtle take, like the most subtle take. And just that instinct to then like set it and just like this fish took off. And I was like, I do not know what it is. And then it jumped, and then it ran. Like way, my gosh, like probably like, I'm not even exaggerating, like 200 meters, like immediately. And I'm like running after it, like reeling it in. And then it just completely spools
Yeah.
me. And that
Oh,
happens
wow.
like over and over. Like these fish
Wow.
are
They're massive.
huge.
Yeah. That's so wild to be fishing for them, like, in that kinda scenario too, like, waiting at night, 200-pound tarpon, Africa. I just everything about that is, like, kind of blowing like, splitting my mind.
Elephants
I'm like, I don't even know
behind
where to
you,
start with, like.
hippopotamuses in the water.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, like,
Are you
are you? Sorry, Mitch. Go for it.
I was just gonna ask, are you scared of the hippopotamuses?
I was
Like,
gonna
is
say
that
that's exactly what I was gonna say. That's
that's
exactly what I was
I'm
gonna say.
I'm scared of nature. Nature
no.
scares me, but, like, no? Really?
No, the only time I started to, like, think a little bit was after I got a bull shark, and
Yes.
then I was like,
Okay.
"Okay, so
Got a
these
bull
things are,
shark.
yep, they're real, they're here, and this is, like, 100 times the size of me."
My
And
god. So you
so then there
landed
was
this thing.
what's that? Sorry?
You landed the bull shark.
Yeah, yeah, Alexi and I and the guide, it was a team effort. We all took, like 15-minute intervals to get this, yeah, this bull shark in.
That
Were,
Um,
is insane.
were you trying to catch it? Like, did you spot
yes.
it? And you're okay, okay, okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, then we got to hear this story.
Wow.
Then.
yeah,
In
For
the
yeah, it
sure.
was
boat. What's the story behind this with behind the bull shark?
so there was, after we had, like, 3 really successful mornings of just getting so many jacks and so many fish, and then I'm like, can we catch a shark? And the guide's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Sure.
yep,
Sure.
went out and did it.
That's wild. Like, you guys just spotted this, like, how long was it again? Sorry, you said it
It
was
was I don't know how long. I mean, it was way longer than me. I can show you a photo of it.
I mean, that's already, like, that's already pretty that's like a big shark. So you guys just spot this thing in the water, and how do you make the cast? Like
It was so the guide actually,
yeah.
like, made the cast and then
Okay.
handed me the rod, and then it
Yeah.
was just, like, complete mayhem. And, yeah, and after, like, 15 minutes, I was like, "Okay, nope, this is a team effort."
Yeah. Yeah.
I
We're gonna be
have
landing this one as a
It's the
team.
one and only time I've ever passed the rod, and I have no shame in doing it. This is a team effort because this is a
Yeah.
one and done thing for all of us.
Yeah, landing a bull shark. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
for sure.
seems crazy to me. Um,
Yeah.
what a wild moment. Jeez.
But then so after that, it was that night that we were out,
Yeah.
and I was waiting, and I was like, "Oh, yeah,
Ooh.
yeah." It's like
Yeah.
that one thing kinda touches your leg, and you're like, "Wait, what's that?"
Yeah,
And
for
then
real.
so the guides, oh my gosh, the guides there, I mean, at all the lodges were so phenomenal. But one of the guides in particular, Mike at Setacama, he jokingly then called me his my emotional support guide because I'd be like, Mike, am I still okay standing in the water here? Like, it's just you get in your head.
Yeah. Oh, for real. No, of
I mean,
course.
I don't know how you can't. Yeah.
Like, did they just say like the hippos, like you don't have to worry about them, or like, because I've always heard they're like kind of scary.
Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, any of that stuff, like you stay away from it and you make
Yeah.
smart choices. It's like an elephant. If you get super close
Right.
to it, yeah, it'll charge you. I
Yeah.
mean, so much of that stuff. And the same thing goes for like,
Bears.
yeah,
Yeah.
North American species. And so even when people say, like, oh my gosh, Emily, like you're going to Africa, you're going to Brazil, you're going to Bolivia, it's like, well, I mean, there's stuff here that we shouldn't be really like
Totally. Yeah.
around. Like,
Kind of take your chance.
I
Be
felt
careful.
safer
And
on the beaches in Setacama fishing than like I wouldn't go out for a walk or run in my hometown in the evening by
right.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good
Like,
point. It's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
I'm cruising your. I'm just like fully deep creeping your Instagram. So are these? There's a picture of you holding West African Kubera. Is that pronounced? Am I pronouncing
there's
that right?
the West African giant threadfin,
So there's that. Yeah, and then there's this like gnarly
the red
looking.
snapper, the cubera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that all in the same? That's all in the same place at Sitakama.
Yep.
That is
Yep.
so cool.
Yep.
So it's really like it's like a really multi-species
Big
Mhm.
time.
endeavor. How do you prep for something like that? Like, or were you flying with a ton of gear, or was it kind of arranged with the guides? It's like, okay, well, I can't fly with this much gear. Like, is there some stuff we can borrow? Or
Yeah, so there it was, yeah, for Africa, just because, like, just the logistics of everything, and when
for
since
sure,
we were traveling for so long and so much camera gear of just using their
totally,
gear that's
yeah.
there. Yeah, and I find so often for me, that's the way to do it at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, yeah, like I mean, when we're traveling, when it's like me and Mitch, even when we went to fucking Florida last year, we're like, we've got two, we've got our personal bags and like two bags full of cameras, and we haven't even started packing the fishing stuff yet. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
It's
and
a
we're going for
lot.
like 4 days.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
I always check in with the lodges ahead of time and say, like, even for fly selection of like, hey, do you want me to just buy them from you guys
right,
there or bring them? And um, because so often I find too, they can say, not they as in like the Africa, but like certain destinations will say
Yeah.
like, oh, bring this and this and this, and then you bring like what you think is exactly that, and they're like, oh no, that's garbage. I'm like, but it's what you said.
Yeah.
But
totally.
I will say Lesotho, that was like one of the lodges that I actually like had tied some flies for and brought some flies that I had tied like previously. And I ended up using the majority of all the ones I brought. I was like, wow, this never happens unless it's like a salmon trip.
Yeah.
So that feels good.
Yeah. No, for sure. So from there you went and did the gorilla safari after that?
I did. Yes. Yeah, I
Did you
carried
see any
on.
gorillas? Like, did you guys come
Yeah,
across?
I
That's
did.
pretty cool.
Yeah, a
Wow.
family of I think it was 8 gorillas. So
Wow.
I went out with a lady who's a researcher. She's part of a research team in Germany, and she's based in Gabon, with her and 2 trackers. And we went out, we spent the morning just sitting in stillness watching this gorilla family. It was incredible. And yeah, definitely an experience that I would recommend for people to do for sure. I didn't take a ton of photos when I was doing that. I actually like didn't even bring a good camera on that with me. And yeah, I just really wanted to be present. It's like how much we can kind of take away sometimes because we're trying to capture something versus just
Mhm.
Mhm.
like really being fully in the moment,
Yeah.
and just seeing it through your own eyes.
No, 100%. It's important to take those moments, right? Especially if you're there for 5 weeks doing so much shooting. It's like looking for those little windows where you can just kind of, take it in and like allow yourself to just be present for that. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a wild trip. I mean, like, there's so much to it because it's like 5 weeks, all these destinations. It's like, that's crazy. I mean, you talk about like the saltwater tarpon and sight fishing for the freshwater in the freshwater fisheries, but like what are some of the most like what's maybe like one or two more super standout moments fishing wise from that trip that you take back that just are like, man, that was like so glad I had that moment.
Or
So,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Aldo.
No, no, no. I was gonna say, or that maybe surprised you or something.
Yeah, I would say so one of the most memorable fish would be the big snapper, the big Cubera Aldo that you just saw, which was like just massive. And hooked that, it took off, so I'm running down after it and my reel just kind of blows up.
Just
And so there
explodes.
Oh
is like
no.
no drag, no nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like doing everything that you should not do because like, okay, I'm going to break a thumb. I'm going to do this. But you're like, I'm landing this fish. And like at one point, I was even like, I got the reel so that it could reel, but it was like reeling backwards. Like it was just
Oh, weird.
complete mayhem. And then I'm like
Yeah.
running back on the beach to try and like pull it up and like was one of those moments. And then, yeah, Mike, the guide, like we were able to land it. And we're both just like, what in the world? Like, how did that fish just get landed? One of those moments where like everything that can possibly goes wrong goes wrong. But then it turns out beautifully. So that was definitely a highlight moment. And I think even like what stands out the most, to be honest, and it may be like it kind of sounds cliche because I'm all about the fish, but just casting in the dark and
Yeah.
having your sight, that sense gone, and how it just forces you. Like I just was so much even more present and aware and
Yeah.
grounded. And I think it actually made me like a much better angler that week because I had to really like focus and feel my cast and feel the rod loading and really feel like if I could feel a subtle take or whatever else, like when
Mm.
that visual side
Oh, that's so
is
interesting.
gone, like that was just so fascinating to me.
Mhm.
Right, because I imagine there were lights or like you had headlamps or something around, but I guess all that probably was off while you were fishing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so cool. I mean, like, what an what a crazy thing thinking about like standing on the beach on the coast of Africa, looking out into the Atlantic,
Sounds
into the
magical.
ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds unreal,
It
Yeah.
really, really, really is. Like
surreal, even.
it's a place that I will go back to like many, 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 many times over. And there's
Yeah.
so many incredible fisheries over there. Like now I want to go to Cameroon and go after the Nile perch, and I want to go for
Oh yeah.
tigerfish, and I
Oh
want to
yeah,
go
Yeah.
like to Sudan and then the Seychelles. And
Yeah.
it's like,
yeah.
oh gosh, this Africa like might have just yeah.
Oh,
I mean, there's so much, like you're saying, like, yeah, like, sure, like, we don't necessarily think about it all the time, I suppose. Well, there's just so many places to go, but Africa, yeah, and Africa's, like, top of the list for us too. Um,
yeah. When was it that you went? Was it 2018, 2019?
yeah,
Mitch and Yilmer were there for work, and they ended up taking one day and going fishing in the mountains for trout. But
yeah,
man, when you two came back from that trip, it was like kind of the similar, like Emily. You were like leaping out of your camera, like you're like the energy that
yeah.
you have while you're talking about this place. So, and I remember Mitch and Yilma being having a lot of that same energy, just being like, "This place is amazing. It's totally surreal," and like it's like almost like
Mhm.
a paradigm shift for your own mind. It's like, yeah, because you read about like even like Orvis trips or something like it's always about tigerfish or the Zambezi or whatever, but there's a big
Yeah,
continent to go
Yeah.
explore. You know,
Huge,
not taking
huge.
anything away from the
Yeah.
Zambezi, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
Yeah.
no.
And just like again of like how accessible it is and with with operations like African waters where the logistics everything is taken care of for you.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that's
And
cool.
just the comfort in that, like, when you book through these lodges that you know that everything is taken care of for you and that, like, somebody has, like, your best interest all the time, and
yeah.
for safety, for logistics, for all of that kinda
Mhm.
stuff. It just, yeah, it's definitely world class for sure.
Yeah, that's cool because that's what I was curious about. Like, is it something that people like these adventures you go on, and you go on a lot of wicked adventures and live quite an exciting life. I think that people might look at it and be like, "Oh man, I wish I could do that." Like, "Oh, that's so cool." But it's like, can like you were saying earlier, it's like it's pretty accessible actually. Like, although it seems so grandiose, it's like,
Yep.
is it like, can someone just go do this?
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Like if you have the time and the resources and the desire to do it, then is very accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's just like a really interesting point that like I haven't thought that. I mean, it's like when you think about it, it's like, yeah, you're right. Like you just get on a plane and you end up someplace very wild and magical and
Mhm.
amazing. It's like, oh, yeah, that wasn't that hard to do that to get there. It's like
Yeah.
you say, if you have the resources and whatnot. But
Yeah, and,
yeah,
like, I left Libreville on Christmas Eve, and I was home for Christmas dinner on Christmas Day.
yeah, that's wild. Like, what a crazy change of pace. Like, yeah,
What
Yeah.
just like
what
that.
was that moment like? Where you're just like, wait a minute, what?
All of a sudden, you're at the dinner
All of a
table.
sudden,
Like,
you're at the
whoa,
dinner table. You're like New Brunswick. You're like, wait a minute.
tarpon, yeah,
I mean, I don't know, like, now I feel like, it's kind of almost starting to feel normal
right,
in
Right.
my life of,
yeah,
like, my nieces and my nephew, I mean, it's like the common question amongst my family is, "What country is Emily in this week?"
yeah.
And so it is just kind of like,
It's
yeah,
cool.
one flow to the other.
Very cool.
It is cool. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting hearing about, I think I always assumed because you're from New Brunswick that you kind of fly fish your whole life, but it was kind of cool learning that, what a unique way that you kind of got into fly fishing. You kind of got into fly fishing on the road, which is
Yeah.
like a pretty, I would have to think uncommon story.
I mean, I certainly hear a lot of stories, especially like, yeah, maybe for women, if they got involved with it because they had a boyfriend that did it, or their dad did it, or like a
Mm,
male figure who did it, or became a part of a group or a circle of friends. Where, yeah, for me, like it really was just me, and and I think that's that thing too. And like, what I just really appreciate that because for anything that like I really enjoy. It's taking those moments to step back and say, like, okay, why am I doing this? And
mm,
just last week I was giving doing a speaking thing with an elementary school, and it's around like, okay, let's explore your passions and interests, and like, what is it that you do really love about it? And because sometimes like we can do things because other people are doing them, and then it's like you get that moment to think like, okay, well, wait a minute, like, what is it that I do really like about this?
mm,
And,
mm-hmm,
I know, yeah, for me, it is like, no, I love to fly fish and I love like I love the hunting of it. Like I love that like I mean I love hunting as well and it's that like searching for fish and like and I think this thing too of what I've really love is getting into a new activity, which same as for cycling. I didn't start racing until I was 28 years old. I got my first bike at the age of 27.
It's
And then
incredible.
for fly fishing, like gosh, probably 9 years ago. So when I was 31. But it's this thing of like, what other skill sets do I have in my life that I've learned from other things that I can apply to whether
Yeah.
it's cycling or to fly fishing to make it be something that is enjoyable, that I can be proficient at, and that it's just such a good way for us to be able to get to learn about ourselves, but that like we have to take the time to be able to kind of think those things through. It's like, why do some people like just completely like lose it when they see a tailing permit when they've been super calm and then
Right.
they just like they can't perform, they can't make they can't make the cast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just being able to learn those things, I like for me being able to learn those things like about myself and how I show up and how I am in certain moments, like it's just been such a cool process.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, interesting how fly fishing can be a conduit to so many different aspects of our life. I know, like it's like like you say, just like learning about yourself and fly fishing. Like I don't know, once you stop and really think about what fly fishing does, it. I mean, I guess this is why we say it's kind of more than fishing when you're really into it. I suppose like anything, but that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the fact that like fishing has taken me and just so many of us to places that otherwise like I never would have gone there.
Hmm.
Totally.
It's like even this last trip to Bolivia and like taking helicopters into like different rivers every day. And it's like people like unless you're here to fly fish, you're not seeing these river systems.
No.
And the same as Gabon or Lesotho. Like I couldn't imagine. I mean, maybe Gabon, yeah, if I was going on a gorilla trek, that would be a destination. But to go
Hmm.
to a place like Mahangwa Community Camp, like it's fly fishing that brings you there. Although that is a destination that like for non-anglers still go to
Would
because the
still be
hiking,
cool.
the horseback riding, the
I mean, it just looks
Right.
everything is
insane.
just like
Yeah.
such a destination, such a cool
Yeah.
destination.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but just
that's
Yeah.
the
It's
cool thing
cool.
about fly fishing is even in your backyard, it can take you to those in between spaces that you maybe wouldn't have visited anyway. Like, I mean, Mitch, you were in Tokyo.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know, when you hopped on that boat to go fish for sea bass, I don't think a lot of people have seen that version of Tokyo, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah. It takes
cool.
you. Yeah. It takes you to
Takes you to
really,
some
really cool
interesting
places.
places.
I mean, this might be like the answer to one of the next questions because we do have 5 more questions right now that we ask every single guest in the show, Emily, and I feel like this is one of them. But maybe we'll ask you them now. We'll see. They're the same old thing. You can just answer them normal pace. It's not buzzer beat or anything like that. But the first question is, what is your favorite fish and why? If you had to pick a favorite, which is I think you're probably one of the most like the people on the show most excited to hear this answer because you've got so many species of fish. But what would be your number one?
somebody asked me that the other day and I refused to answer it.
Here, it's back.
It's back. Do you want to do you could do fresh and salt.
Oh gosh, like
Makes it a little
I
bit easier.
really don't have an answer.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I really don't. Oh gosh. I would can I do kind of like a tie right now?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
Of course.
So right now I'm just really on I've got tarpon on my mind because I just lost a couple of big ones.
Yeah.
And so like tarpon, dorado and Atlantic salmon are kind of like all in this little
Wow,
lump sum for
what a
me of
cool
like
crew. Yeah.
What a
yeah,
trio.
Yeah.
like Dorado and Tarpon, I mean, just those like aggressive takes. They're all acrobatic. They're gonna put on a show. They're gonna give me a run for my money. Um, but but then I also really, really love just the really technical fishing, and that's why I love permit fishing. It's like when everything just needs to I mean, with all of it, everything just needs to align. But it is like I want that accurate cast. I want that one shot. I want to get snubbed. I want to get rejected if it's not what they want. I want to feel all the emotions that come with it with that. Um, and yeah, I always say too, like my favorite fish is going to be the next one that I catch. So
Yeah, true. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
good point.
like that.
I can dig that. Yeah. No, that's a great answer. I mean, that definitely
And how can you not like Atlantic salmon? I mean, come on.
very cool.
Pretty
What a
special.
what a,
Yeah.
what a special species that is.
Yeah, and I love them because to me, like, endurance salmon are just, like, the ultimate endurance athlete.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just the stamina that those fish have, like, what they have to go through in their life cycle, like, yeah, as an endurance athlete myself, it's like I've got, major respect for that fish.
Yeah. That's
You're
cool.
still cycling, right?
Recreationally, not racing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but
Gotcha.
I still yeah, so I mostly am running now, trail running, just because it's,
Mm.
more conducive to being on the road and for traveling and stuff like that, but in the summer here, yeah, definitely still riding, and as long as I'm moving right now and staying in shape so that I can say yes and do whatever opportunity comes my way, that I'm happy.
Totally. Yeah.
Love that.
Okay, number 2, Mitch's Fishes 5 is if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's like the best fishing ever, where would you go?
Well, I'm
This
gonna
is
say Argentina because I'm going there next week.
That's a good answer.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, have fun.
What
Um,
what about it? Yeah.
I'm really, yeah, Seychelles is high on my list right now too.
For
That'd be
sure.
sick. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really love the warmth, and where it's a little cold right now, I would be okay. I would be okay in the Seychelles right now.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah,
you.
us too. I think.
I feel on that one.
Yeah, I'm feeling.
Okay, number 3 is what is your best fishing memory? Best fishing memory, or one of your best or favorite fishing memories of all time.
Hmm.
Doesn't necessarily have to be a fish you caught.
No.
Could just be a standout moment.
Um. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a story. My best fishing memory was, so we were filming the documentary Cadence, which is one of the documentaries that was filmed on me. And so we had filmed it in Arizona for a couple of weeks, and then we were filming on the Restigouche River in
Cool.
New Brunswick, and had 5 days of filming. And on the fifth day of filming, I had not hooked into, like, no fish had even been seen. And it was like that late May. So it was just when the big fish are coming in, and they are few and far between. But those are the ones that I love to go after. It is the quality over quantity. And on the second day, I was out in the canoe with the guide and with one of the cameramen. And we were at this pool called Warden's Pool. And so there's this old Warden's camp to the right, and then the interprovincial train bridge kind of in the front that you see, and it connects the New Brunswick side to the Quebec side. And at one point, the train goes across and it blows its horn. And I look back at James, the camera guide, and I said, "This is the most picturesque moment to hook a salmon." And I'm like, this is when, like, I want for this film, I'm like, I want to get the salmon in this pool. I want the train to be going across. So that was that. Talked about that. That was the end of it. And this is all on camera. So day 5, the rest of the camera crew kind of show up that day because we were doing more filming stuff. And we were down at that same pool. And a good friend of mine, Monica, and also client at the time, she was in the boat with me, and she was doing a pass through this pool, and then we were going to continue on, and then I was like, just let's take one more drop, and I'm gonna put a fly through here and just fish over where she had just fished. And so James, same cameraman, was in the boat with me, and in the exact same spot. And I make a cast, and as I make a cast, the train goes across and it blows its horn. And I jokingly just kind of looked back at James and I said, "There's my cue." And the second I said that, the salmon took, and I landed a
What?
32-pound salmon.
Oh, it's so
32
32
pounds.
pounds. Good
And
lord.
like that was one of those moments, and it was just like, did that actually just happen?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
and I
crazy.
think that, like, if it wasn't on camera, I would have been like, wait a minute, did
That's
I
like a
just
dream.
make up that I said that? Did we
Yeah.
just make up the first time, like 3 days
Yeah.
ago, that I said that this was the most, like, yeah. So that
That's
would be one of my
wild.
most memorable moments.
Wow, you like
Dream.
called it.
Called the shot, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's wild.
That's
That's
really cool.
crazy. Um,
Oh, the
32 pounds.
Restigouche. That's a whole
32 pound
other.
salmon
That's a whole other.
thing. Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 months away. 5 months away from my first day on the
I
Restigouche.
I want to get Mitchie and if you don't know Mitch, Mitch is all about swinging flies
I
on
love it.
dry lines, and just like you got to do the Atlantic salmon thing,
Oh
man.
no,
Yes.
You'd
I
love
want
it
to
so
catch an
much.
Atlantic. Yeah, be
Yeah.
sick. Be
Yeah,
super cool.
especially those early fish. Like,
Yeah, because they're just so fiery. That's
yep.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one day. Okay, number 4, which is fishies 5, is why do you fly fish? So this is kind of harping back to what we were talking about earlier, but why? Why do you keep going out there, and what keeps you going back?
I think that, I mean, for me, fly fishing is ultimately it's about connection, and it's trying to connect with the fish at the end of your fly line. But even more so than that, it keeps me connected to community. It keeps me connected to culture. It keeps me connected to conservation, and it keeps me connected to myself. And this constant kind of living in anticipation. Like when we're fly fishing, we're constantly anticipating and hoping for that next best thing. And I think that if we can kind of take that hope and that presence that we have when we're on the water fishing and bring that into all aspects of our lives, then I just think that the world would be a better place.
Yeah, that's great. I
No,
love that.
that's
Yeah,
wow, that's a great answer.
connection.
I think what we started kind of the show with was like talking about like I guess introspection with like intent, because I mean it's not uncommon if people talk about like oh, when I'm in the river I think about a lot of things, and maybe reflect on my own life, and it's interesting to hear you talk about maybe not in not so generalistic terms about like yeah, I think about what it is that you think about while you are fishing, and how that does reconnect with your own being. I think it's interesting. It's very poignant,
Yeah.
because it's like
Yeah,
yeah, I say that sometimes too, and then I'm like, but what do I now it's got me thinking like, well, what do I mean by that really when I'm on the river, like thinking about my own life?
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and I think too around this thing of like just how we show up and how we can get frustrated that like a fish isn't taking our fly, but like what are the other variables in that? And we are a major variable in that. And then taking that and like, okay, so if something else isn't going on, like it's like, okay, if we're like fishing for a trout and see that they're feeding and we throw whatever fly at them, they don't want it, so we do another fly, they don't want that, and then we kind of change position, they don't want that, and then so maybe we let the pool rest and then we come back. It's like we do all these things, but like it's like you could be in your job, you could be in a relationship dealing with someone, and how often we try and solve the same problem the exact same way over and over and over again and just get frustrated. And we're
yeah,
so unaware of how we are showing up, how our actions are causing certain reactions or not. And so even yeah, those are things that I think about just when I am on the water of ultimately, like in fishing, we want to have something. And if we want to have something, then let's break that back a little bit. And what do we need to do in order to have that? Well, we need to make a good cast. We need to be in the right spot. We need to, all this kind of stuff. And then if we break that down even more, of how do we need to be? And how do we need to be showing up within ourselves? So yeah, it's that person of like, okay, you see a tailing permit. Are you going to completely fold?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
are
yeah.
you going to be able to stay present to then
To
make the
make that cast.
cast, which is the do, presenting the fly to then get the have, which is the fish.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. No, that's a good way of thinking about it. It's really, yeah.
You know, yeah,
So
cool.
many layers.
Might have gone too deep there.
No, I
No,
Sorry.
not
like
at
it. I
all.
like it.
No, no,
No,
no.
no, no. I'm just thinking about that.
I was gonna take it. I was like half thinking, and then also trying to crack a joke about next time me and Mitch get in an argument, we just need to let the pool rest.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's exactly it.
Right? Yeah.
Just let the pool rest, baby.
Just let the pool rest. Just let it.
Just,
100%.
just
Just let
yep.
it rest. I love it. Okay, number 5, and the last of the Mitchie's Fishies 5 is if you were a fly pattern, what would you be? What fly represents you best and why?
Oh, what would I be? I feel like this is a question that like you ask somebody that knows me really well.
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
totally.
maybe one day we're gonna compile all of these specifically into like a coffee table book. But it's
Yeah.
always interesting hearing what
I
people
feel like
think
I would
they
I
are.
feel like I would be a magog smelt.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
good.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
definitely a first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maygod
definitely.
smelt. Good
Never heard that
It's
one.
one.
like it's colorful, it's got vibrance, it's got some class, it's got like, yeah, and gets the job done. It gets the job done.
That's great, and that's a great answer. Yeah, we've never heard
It
that one.
gets the job
I love it.
done. That's a great, oh my god, that's a great fly.
Very good fly.
And,
Um,
pretty,
yeah,
salmon-y.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's worked for me.
I love it. Emily, that's it for the show. I mean, that's everything. Thank you so much for coming on and talking. I feel like we'd love to have you on again just to talk about a different place in the world because there's so many things we can talk about.
Yeah, big
But yeah,
time.
Yeah.
it's been swell for
Well, it's
sure.
cool to chat about Africa because really I think this is just like the second time we've done that, and the first time was, well, your trip, Mitch.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like
Yeah,
now, there's so much to talk about with Africa. So yeah, I think that'll be potentially a whole other thing that we can do. So
yeah.
but yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
no, definitely. And are we still recording that this goes on, or is this just us talk?
yeah, no, this is like I was just about to say, this is your the just before we sign off, like how could
Where
people
can people
find you?
find
Shameless plug
you?
Oh, gotcha.
time.
I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
are we
yeah, yeah.
still recording?
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, where can people find me? Yeah, on Instagram, Rodger, Rodger, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on my website, Emily EMILYS Rodger.com. Yeah, the World Wide Web it's a small place. And reach
It
out.
is.
I always say too, it's like, again, it's like this thing about connection. I think the fly fishing community is so wonderful. So many communities are so wonderful. And sometimes people can feel like, oh, somebody is too busy or they don't have time or they whatever else. Like, yeah, if people want to know questions about a destination or about me or about just anything, like I always encourage people to reach out. This is how we all got
Yeah.
connected. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you
Okay.
guys.
Of
No,
course.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
time. I know you're busy, so this
Yeah.
is, much appreciated.
Much appreciate.
Yeah.
Likewise. And any destination, I'm always open to chat about it. I love to share my adventures.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll definitely do that again one day. Well, there we go. That's another interesting interview with a very interesting person. What did you think of that one? All?
Well, it makes me want to go to Africa. I mean, I already did
Yeah.
when you two went to South Africa and came back, and Mitch, you've been gushing about it ever since. And now I think that was like what, 7 years ago now, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
also like the tarpon thing, I didn't think about in
whew,
Africa. And
whew.
like the shore, like the mouth of that river, like having tarpon that size coming in there. I didn't know it was like a tarpon destination, but I mean, why wouldn't it be? I suppose
It's sounds
some of the
friggin'
biggest tarpon
awesome.
in the world.
Sounds friggin' awesome.
Yeah, sounds friggin' awesome.
Yeah, saltwater fishing in Africa.
And of
All
course, right
right.
now, we recorded that interview, a few weeks ago, and Emily was talking about going down to Argentina, which is where she is right now. She's there. You can like watch it on her Instagram. We've been following along since, and she's just like fishing like crazy every day. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And yeah, she's like catching banging trout and Dorado and stuff. It's
Yeah,
like it's awesome. And then,
very cool.
I think she's gearing up to head to Belize soon. So I mean, like, wow, what a life. But like, honestly, what
Very
a
cool.
what a what a traumatic accident she had to overcome.
Yeah,
And so you know
that's
what,
wild.
if she gets to fish for banging fish the rest of her life,
It's great.
that's awesome.
Very strong, very strong-willed person. Yeah, she was cool. It was awesome to get to chat to her, and super nice as well. So, Emily, thanks for coming on the show because it was cool to meet you finally. It's been obviously a long time coming.
Yeah, we've been circling around each other's
Yeah,
communities, I guess you could say.
yeah. So hopefully we can do some more stuff in the future together because yeah, you're super cool. But anyways, hopefully y'all at home enjoyed that show, and yeah, go follow Emily on Instagram and just be absolutely mind blown by the incredible fish she's catching. I'm looking at her page right now, just scrolling through. Man, the fish she gets are just wild.
I
But
know, it's
anyways,
wild.
yeah,
It's wild.
yeah.
Well, it's it's a rainy February day.
Hmm.
I guess we could probably go fishing soon.
Yeah, we could. I thought we were supposed to get a ton of rain, like, in the forecast. I was worried about, like, some of the rivers maybe blowing out, but, I know
Maybe after this
Ottawa was.
blow, you know?
Yeah, exactly. A nice little pusheroonie,
Yeah.
of rain. I know, like, Ottawa was supposed to get, like, a ton of rain.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
damn.
16 degrees in Ottawa tomorrow. What? That's crazy.
I know some of our pals have been on the rivers and slamming it. Some awesome fishies.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
almost like the spring steelhead, fish is, like, a little bit early this year. I mean, certainly feels that way just because it's so springy outside, but, yeah, I've been seeing lots of steelhead pictures
yeah,
trickling
yeah.
through.
I mean, there's a few sections of some rivers open,
Yeah,
and they're. I'm curious to. I mean, I'm curious to like see how this warm year may affect like when they actually spawn. Like, I wonder if they're gonna like. I wonder if come opener at the closer to the end of April, if there's going to be any left in the systems. Because if
yeah.
there's all this rain and all this warmth, they might just be like, "Oh fuck it, let's just do it now and get back to the lake and party."
Yeah, for sure. If the
if,
water
if
temps, I guess it's all just water temp based, right? Like if the
Yep.
temps get up to a certain, I mean, it's still pretty cold at night. That's the thing. So I don't know. Like,
I don't know,
um,
man.
wow.
12 degrees.
Well, yeah, during the day, right? It's
Yeah.
crazy. Tomorrow's 12 during the day. It's crazy for February, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, and hopefully we keep getting lots of rain and stuff like that, just so that the rivers aren't super low to start off the year. Like credit kind of needs, like, at least the credit the river we fish a lot, talk about a lot on the show, needs good amount of snow and rain to
Yeah.
help make sure it's not like starting point really low. I mean, like pretty much every lake and river. Same with buckshot, even like buckshot needs that snow melt, needs that rain because it could be. I remember fishing last June when I went to Alberta, and the rivers there too. Same thing. Like they didn't get as much snow that year, and the rivers were like crazy low at opener.
Right.
It's freaky. Like the impact that climate change has on that kind of thing too. Just like affects the whole year of ecosystem on water bodies.
Totally. Yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, those western rivers, they really rely on snowpack, so
Oh my god, yeah,
it's yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how our lives shape
yeah,
up over the
yeah.
course of our lives. That was so ineloquent. It's wonder what our lives are going to look like over the course of our lives over here.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
yeah,
But we'll see,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. But anyway, we should
Those
definitely get out and go
shows, so.
fishing right now.
Hell
We
yeah,
can.
get the raft out.
Yeah,
Big time.
yeah,
In a
that's for
big
sure.
way. In a big way.
I see like a
Um,
little sticker there on your fly box. The tunes that Tim did there. Of course, Tim
Yeah.
Vossinger, angler here in Southern Ontario, and tattoo artist. March. I keep saying February. March 16th. Phil said he's doing tattoos. Those are sweet, but also you can get his stickers and stuff, right? Like he does prints and stuff as well.
Yeah, there's gonna be prints and stuff, and like there's gonna be just raffle tickets for sale for $5. But if you buy stickers or get a tattoo, that's gonna enter you in the draw as well.
That's rootin'
So
tootin'.
as long as you do some sort of purchasing
Yeah.
surrounding our event, then you might win a new rod and reel setup.
Absolutely rootin' tootin'. Is there anything else to talk about here? I guess not really. We got, it's warm out. We're gonna go fishing soon. We've talked about some events coming up.
I don't know, because I mean, as of to February 27th,
Yeah.
there's still there's still a slot available. Thunder and lightning, February 27th, everybody. Toronto, Ontario. There is still a slot available for the Drift Outfitters hosted trip to Belize, which I'm going to be on.
Yep.
I'm going to be taking pictures and being a helpful boat buddy to the guests. Obviously, we've soaked the internet in Belize content. So if you want to enjoy that for yourself, I would go to driftoutfitters.com or email rob@driftoutfitters.com to learn more, because there's one slot left, and we would obviously love to have a full trip. I think it's going to be a good group of people, and you get to see 2 different islands in Belize, which is really cool, and you're guided the entire time, which is also cool. And the last thing that's really cool, sorry, Mitch, I know this is long-winded, but it's May, and you might be thinking to yourself, Belize in May? Why wouldn't I just fish here? Well, I'll tell you why, Mitch.
Yeah.
migratory freaking tarpon, bro.
That's
And
why.
it's also the peak season for permit,
There you go.
which is really cool. And we got probably 7 to 8 shots on permit a day
Yeah.
when we were, if not more, when we were there. So if that's what low season is like,
Think
peak
about that.
season is going to
Yeah.
be crazy.
The high season.
Yeah. So we're going to start off at the same place that we started off, which is San Pedro, and then we're going to go to Placencia.
Ooh,
And
Placencia.
so there'll be 2 different locations, 2 different lodges and guides that we're going to be going through.
No.
And you're guided the whole time, and me and Rob are there to host you along the way. So my God, please, and I'll be snapping your pics.
Boom.
So my God, please come along. It's going to be super fun.
My God, please, please,
My
we
God,
beg of you.
please. My God, please.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a Canadian.
Where do you get that info? Drift Outfitters? Just give them a call?
DriftOutfitters.com.
Or
You
Drift
don't
Outfitters
have
now?
to be Canadian. You can be from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
It just means your flight's different than us.
There you go.
That's all. But we're all ending up in the same place, so it doesn't open to non-Canadians as well.
Boom. All right. Well, there you go. Go to Belize. Why don't you?
Why don't you?
And yeah, thank you everybody for listening to this show.
Oh! I had one thing.
Yeah.
Mitch, we surpassed 10,000 subscribers on
the
YouTube.
tube.
So I just wanted to say thanks, everybody. That's so awesome.
Yeah, that is really awesome.
That feels great.
Please keep sharing and liking and commenting and subscribing on the YouTube because it's super cool for sure. So yeah, that is good. We'll have a beer, huh? Go celebrate, huh? Little steak frites. Ooh.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that lately.
Oh yeah.
Steak
Well, I
frites.
went to a new restaurant last night called Cafe Rene.
Okay.
And it's a French bistro with curiously 15 pasta plates on the menu, but it's an awesome looking place with steak frites. So maybe we can go there.
Good pasta dishes at the French place.
Yeah, we had some really banging.
So hey, there you go.
Banging pasta last night. But
one of my favorite burgers is from an Italian restaurant here in Toronto.
Gusto 101.
So explain that one to me. They make a wicked burger. So hey,
Well, the Italians make good burgers and the French make good pasta. Who knew?
Who knew? Well, go check that out. Shout out to Renee's. Second one's called Renee's.
Cafe Rene, yeah.
Shout out to Cafe Renee. And shout out to you for listening. Thank you so much. Shout out to Emily for coming on the show. And that's it for me,
Yes.
Mitch Aldo.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Comb your hair.